The 20th commemoration of the founding of the Multicultural Center at the University of California, Santa Barbara in 2009 was a joyous occasion for the students, staff, and faculty who united and persisted to make it a reality. And while I prefer to share the video of the actual talk, the sound and some aspects were not so good. And so I decided to re-record it and use some of the still images from the video itself. At the time of this talk, I had been away from UCSB at Antioch University for nearly 17 years, but returned just 1 year later to begin teaching an education course in the Department of Black Studies. I hope you won't mind too many images of me. Naturally, I'm a bit more mellow these days, but I hope to arouse some of the excitement and enthusiasm I had at that celebration. Okay, here it is. I am honored to be a part of this auspicious celebration and especially grateful for the lessons that the cooperative struggles to establish this center provided for so many. Because it is so special, because I deeply revere what has been achieved over the past several years, and because I talk long and often for a living, I decided to organize a few words ahead of time so I could achieve the goal of my role and stay within the time allotted. It was a vision not realized, an idea beyond what was acceptable at the time that inspired the work that created the Multicultural Center. Today, it is clear that this work has served to expose students to the wisdom, creativity, and positive expressions that are found in all cultures. Yet more importantly, it has also served to expand the foundations of education and encourage the logic and value of a cooperative consciousness. Experience and necessity required that the segregated become integrated, that the modern move beyond the postmodern, and that physics progress into theoretical and metaphysics. And now, even more experience and greater necessity require that as we maintain the spirit of the multicultural and transnational, we consider the value of a carefully crafted, pragmatic vision of the emergent, universal, and non-dual that can create and sustain what is desperately needed today. From the vantage point of the International Space Station, one can readily see the interdependent relationship among the waters of the earth, how they flow from sea to sea, and in a never-ending ecological cycle, transform from solid to liquid, to vapor, and then back to liquid and solid again. From an even higher view, one can see that earth and water are indelibly connected to fire and air, and that all four elements move about within the fifth element of space-time. And no matter the path, all that exists ultimately returns to its non-physical, energetic source in its own designated way. Some great scientists suggested that a human being should realize him or herself as a part of the whole, a part that is limited in time and space. He went on to say that we experience our thoughts, our feelings, and ourselves as if we are separated from the whole, a kind of experiential delusion that is fostered by our own consciousness. This delusion, he said, serves as a kind of prison for us, restricting us to affection for only a few persons nearest to us. Our task, he says, is to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of concern, compassion, and responsibility to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in all of its beauty. These are not the words of an artist, an imam, a rabbi, a minister, a bishop, or even a Vedic priest. These are words of wisdom and reality that have been exemplified and made real by the programmatic action that the Multicultural Center has engaged in for 20 years and counting. I'd like to share a story about a friend who I first met in India in the year 2000. Dr. Auron Jumsai is a physicist who was born in Thailand. He was a chief research engineer, scientist at NASA for several years and was the central figure in the final stages of developing the means and mechanisms that allowed us to land on the moon. During a talk in London some years ago, he asked his audience to look at the person seated to their right and to describe them. After giving them a few moments to do so, he then said that they had used the medium of visible light to do that. And now they should look at the same person using the medium of X-rays. Doing this, they discovered that they could only see the skeletal structure and thus could only determine the gender of the person based on the gender-specific shape of their pelvic bone. After completing this process, he then asked them to move in the other direction along the electromagnetic spectrum and look at that person through the medium of radio waves. Doing this, they were unable to see the other person at all, since radio waves pass directly through solid objects and do not provide a reflection of visible light. Following this example, Dr. Jumsai then told his audience that all they had done to get the vastly different results they had experienced was to change the medium through which they looked at the person. He then asked, "So what then is the true nature of a human being? Can we not see that we are beyond our mere appearance, that we are far greater than the sum of our apparent attributes? We have bodies and we have minds, yet both are attributes of the essential person. We use the terms my body, my mind, but who is the possessor of these attributes? Who is the executor of this mind, body, spirit complex? Who is the triune being that we truly are? What is the basic idea?" Both biological and ecological diversity are phenomenological and changing. Diversity exists across our own individual experiences. We touch it, we see it, we feel it, and we experience it in its myriad presentifications and forms. And through miseducation and ideological prodding, we are taught to classify, categorize, stratify, and appropriate various values to the experience of this diversity. All good so far, all practical and necessary to a point. Yet, at deeper levels of seeing and knowing, and trusting and accepting, and coming to the Multicultural Center, most of the differences that bind us to ignorance, exclusion, and violence are ultimately seen to be quite superficial. As time goes by, and as we grow in age and/or experience, they pale in true significance and become united and unified through understanding. As one great mystic wrote, the perception of differences that gives rise to disharmonies comes from a needy, uncritical, and immature mind, a mind that is unsettled and goes out of itself and out of its way to satisfy the never-ending demands of personal significance and of the untamed ego. All rivers flow with the same H2O, but by the time they reach the ocean, their universal destiny, they lose their names and distinctions and merge into the ocean depths. The same electricity provides the power for every light. Nations are many, but Earth is one. Stars are many, but stardust is one. Oceans are many, but water is one. Lamps are many, but light is one. Beings are many, but breath is one. Cultures are many, but humankind is one. Though the combinations are different, the DNA in a dog, in a fox, a palm tree, and in each and every one of us is exactly the same. It is ignorance that encourages us to focus on the colors of the rainbow while forgetting the prank of the prism and the singularity of pure, unsullied light from which each of the colors emerged. The world of matter appears to be marked by diversity when it is subjected to physical investigation. But a penetrating search into the nature of matter reveals that all matter is a combination of the 5 elements. Substance does not change. It is only the forms that change. The clay pot loses its pot designation when it is broken and merges back into the earth in its original formless state. We are all sparks from the same fire, flowers different, yet flowers all the same. Some mere buds, others in partial bloom, and still others fully radiant with color and fragrance that benefit and delight all who come near. In these troubled times, in these times of great transition and wondrous opportunity, on this day that has been set aside to mark our collective achievement and express our gratitude, let us strive to achieve the wisdom that will nourish our spirits and inspire us to work harder, to love more truly, more freely, and more pragmatically and selflessly. Let us banish indifference and amorality. Let us strengthen our faith in truth and justice, and let us act on our convictions. Of course, this one human family point of view contradicts how most of us have been acculturated, and it is not easy to achieve, especially with all the warmongering and otherizing that characterizes our current state of affairs. Yet, when such a point of view is brought into our personal, professional, and social lives, we will naturally experience more peace and fulfillment within ourselves and in our interactions. The oyster will always produce the pearl, but only after it has been agitated by the incessant grinding of the unwanted sand. The light of true understanding most often arrives only during the darkness of night, from sifting, sculpting, sharing, and honing one's knowledge and experience for the good of others. The harmony of the universe encourages harmony among the human community. Human community is not isolated from the underlying harmony of the biosphere and the greater universe. When humanity forms community, it becomes a living embodiment of the symbiotic order of the universe. And it is the office of a socially just education to clarify reality and inspire new generations to live in true and meaningful harmony. Correct action in society is rooted in discovering and following the underlying ways of nature. For all things are interwoven with one another. Everything is coordinated. Everything works together in giving form and purpose to the one universe and the one humanity. We have achieved a most incredible beginning with the dedicated work of Zavini Khan Marcus, who was the MCC Multicultural Center Director from the beginning, and so many others who have made this day and this evening possible. So let us step up to the moment and intensify our efforts to lift the level of discourse and experience and give a human meaning to our superhuman destiny. Thank you, and God bless you all.